Hey beauties, welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. I am your host, Sherry Ricard. I'm a medical professional, business leader, author, speaker, and adversity recovery expert, bringing you fascinating guests, business, beauty, and lifestyle tips to help you create a beautiful life. And always committed to keeping it real. Now let's dive in. Hey you, welcome back to the podcast. We're going to be talking to Amy Pamensky. She is an intuitive mindset coach for women. But in addition to coaching, Amy is also a speaker. She is a successful podcaster of the Feminine Frequency podcast and a spiritual teacher. So she is going to be empowering us today, like she does a lot of her clients, on how to live a soul-led life and not to let fear hold us back and create a life that we love. She's also going to be sharing with us her personal journey of overcoming anxiety and depression and teaching us business, energy, money mindset, and also sharing her 3 pillars of confidence and so much more. Hello, Amy. How are you?
Hi, I am doing really good. I was excited to hop on here and have a fun and interesting conversation with you.
I love my guests, and I brag on myself all the time because I know so many women around the world. But it's super exciting. I love meeting women, and you told me something right before we started, and don't even ask me to repeat it. Just tell me what this is, and then we'll go on with the show. But I want to know, like, what is this that's happening, and how long does it last?
Okay, so I was talking about Mercury in retrograde, which is not something that I study. Like, I'm not into astrology, but essentially what happens, there are different cycles in astrology where this planet, Mercury, messes with our technology, is essentially how it works. So it doesn't really make sense to the logical mind, but there's a lot of evidence as far as like patterns and stuff goes. Like, I don't know, last year during a cycle of Mercury in retrograde, do you remember that day where like Facebook and Instagram completely crashed?
Was
Like,
that during that? That was during that time?
Yeah, it was like the apocalypse. It was really bad. So yeah, right now we're in Mercury in retrograde. Yesterday I was experiencing like Wi-Fi issues and things, and I don't really like look at astrology and then be like, oh yeah, it's happening. But if something's weird, I'll be like, I wonder what's going on.
What's going
there's
on?
different cycles. Right now we're in a Mercury in retrograde. It will end at some point, but there's also good things about Mercury in retrograde. It allows us to like slow down and to really check in, and there's a lot of good things that can happen too.
Okay, so I basically need to go and do some reading because I hear this a lot. I have a very dear friend, Lisa, and I could probably call Lisa and she could tell us everything about it. If I'd have known that, I'd have just had her pop in. But anyway, so that's great. But what your specialty is, of course, is you actually help women. And I love this. You have your own podcast. You do a lot of coaching, mindset coaching, and you're going to talk to us a little bit about following your soul calling and stepping into your purpose. And I also like how, and you can kind of define this for us. What is the difference between intuition and fear?
Yeah, so these are all really connected. So let's start first with, the understanding that the way that we have been, I would say, programmed, or the social norms are things like, go to school, get a good job, save for retirement, and then enjoy your life after that. Is kind of like how we operate. And when we go down that path and we haven't taken the time to connect with what brings me joy, what lights me up, what are the things that I have that are unique to offer to the world that I can use as part of my career, or that I can use to contribute in some way. When we don't stop and ask ourselves those questions, we can often end up in a situation where we just don't feel fulfilled, or we're in a job that feels exhausting, or we experience a lot of depression and anxiety and mental health issues, and we don't know why. And often it's because we feel really disconnected from our own joy, from our own happiness, from our own path. And we learn this through religion. We learn this through our parents. We learn this through the idea of what it means to be successful in our society.
Right.
You got to make a lot of money. You got to get a job where your title looks good, and that's our identity. And
Sure.
for many people, they get to a point in their career or even in their marriage where they're like, whoa, how did I get here? Like, how am I so far away from me being happy?
Mm.
And go on this self-discovery journey of what do I really want? What really feels good to me?
Right.
And so intuition is our body's way of speaking to us, our soul's way of speaking to us of, hey, you're on the path of what you're here to do, or you're far away from your path. And when we notice that there's a lot of anxiety or fear or depression, or we're just not happy, oftentimes that means that we are being guided back to what we're really meant to be doing. It's kind of like this sign, like, is this really what I want? So
Mhm.
usually intuition feels really good. It's like that inspiration, that feeling of, that you're like lit up inside. Like it just feels really good.
Right.
Intuition is also our inner knowing. It's like that gut feeling, and it helps us to make decisions throughout our day.
Right.
So that's a little bit about, like, soul calling is more along the lines of the path that our soul is here to be on, the way that we're meant to contribute to the world, versus like a career would be something where you are, getting a stable paycheck. And you can still be following your soul calling if you're in corporate. Or you can be in corporate and you can have like a side hustle, or even be a volunteer and have your soul calling filled up that way. So there's not just like one path for it, but we each have our own path, is essentially what the
Right.
concept and the philosophy is.
I totally believe that because here's the thing, Amy. To me, my intuition that comes to me is that soft, still voice that I hear from God. I know that God
Mhm.
gives me direction. Fear is not of God, right? So we have the light, we have darkness. And I think fear comes from the enemy, and our intuition comes from God. And so if you're being led and you feel fear, odds are you're going down the wrong path. If you're feeling led and you feel, I just feel really good about this. How many times have you felt really good about something? And how many times have you felt like, I don't know, in that midst of confusion? I think confusion also breeds fear, and confusion is also, to me, not of God. I think that we have to go with our intuition. And I think women too are blessed with our instinct of intuition. I call it, I've got that motherly instinct as well.
Mhm.
Right. So I just know, like I know when something's going on with my kid, that not that he or she has even told me, but just I know. I have that knowing. And you can ask my son. My son is 20 and he just moved out last year, and he's a sophomore in college. And I'll call him and I'll say, "What's going on with you?" He'll be like, "Nothing's going on with me." And I go, "No, I just feel it, like something's going on." And then within a conversation, and me just not pushing him, but just asking questions, all of a sudden he'll start telling me what's been on his mind. I'll be like, "I knew something was going on with you." I mean, because you just know, right? You just have that, you have that knowing. And I've told that story before, that when my son passed away, my 17-year-old passed away 13 years ago, I was in the hotel room, and before I went to sleep, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I actually thought something's going on with my dad, something's going on with my mom. I had a full blown anxiety attack. And I had not
Mhm.
had an anxiety or a panic attack before. So it scared me. I thought, I'm having a heart attack. I wanted to pick up the phone and immediately call, but I couldn't because I was in California and I knew it was super late Central Time. And so I was like, I'm not calling anybody this in the middle of the night. This is ridiculous. And so I just kind of dozed off to sleep. But I was woken 2 hours later to that phone call
Mhm.
that my son had been in a car accident. I truly believe when he passed away that I knew it at that moment. And it was a panic attack. I thought I brought him into this world. He came through me in, and that's how he left. And that's just what I choose to believe. Okay. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my little 2 cents
Mhm.
on intuition. But and that's a really good explanation that you gave us. I want you to tell us a little bit about your personal journey so we kind of know where you're coming from, because we really want to learn from you, not just from your experience, but you have a lot of education and research in this. So tell us a little bit, tell everybody about your personal journey, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I think we all have a story that is valuable to share.
Right.
And my story has really brought me to the path of where I am today. So, I started struggling with anxiety and depression when I was at the end of high school.
Hmm.
And it was really a journey of it was both anxiety and depression, and then also I started struggling with some health issues at the same time, digestive issues. And I believe that now, looking back, that it was my emotional, um, mental health that was manifesting in the physical
Sure.
body, which happens, right? When we're stressed, we get
Absolutely.
like, or have physical
Mhm.
symptoms. So my journey was really along the path of health and wellness first. And then, as I went through my own journey, I ended up getting married at the age of 25, and I was divorced at the age of 27, which is pretty unusual.
Mhm.
And through that process, really found myself in recognizing again that I was living a life. I would say it's kind of like a white picket fence life, which is nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people who are super happy with it. Where in my life, it felt like everything was perfect on the outside, but inside I was really unhappy and I was really unfulfilled and feeling really stuck. And while there was nothing quote unquote wrong in my marriage, it very much didn't feel like what I knew was possible. And I also had a yearning to create a life that had more freedom, that was more a full expression of who I am. And there was something inside of me just that knew that there was more in life for me.
Mhm.
So at that time, I was a nutritionist. I did have my own business, and I was starting to see patterns in my clients of, oh, this isn't just about the food. Like, there's an emotional component here, there's a spiritual component here of why do we choose to overeat or to go back to our old habits. And was starting to see this trend alongside like my own experience of, oh, there's something deeper here. And so
Mhm.
I went through my dark night of the soul, went through my journey of really hitting rock bottom, and just for the first time ever looking up to God, the universe, just being like, please help me. Like, I've tried everything. I'm super unhappy. I don't know where to go. Like, please show me a sign. And it
Mm.
was the first time where I really connected in that way and asked for guidance and support and really surrendered to a greater plan. I was like, I can't be experiencing this for no reason. Like, there's something bigger that's guiding me. And I started to follow the signs and started to really move into. I started doing a meditation practice daily because I was waking up at like 4 a.m. with terrible anxiety in the morning, waking up next to my husband at the time and my dog, and I was like, what do I do? It's 4 a.m. And so I would go meditate, and the more that I got quiet with myself and started to listen, I started to get the clear answers of,
Mm.
like, the answer, versus
Mhm.
before I was trying to ask my therapist and my friends and all these other people their advice. And
Right.
really it was an inner choice. So I started to connect to that and really started seeing that there was a different path that I was meant to be on. And it was a very challenging decision. And it changed the trajectory of my life
Sure.
and really catapulted me in a different direction in my career as well.
Right.
Really guiding other women to listen to their own intuition and their own soul calling, and creating relationships that were authentic and real
Mhm.
and fulfilling and meaningful. So
Mhm.
that's a little snippet of my story. And it really was a path of coming home to myself, I would say.
Right. I think that's really cool because you have exactly what you're educated in and embracing your feminine energy and relationships and business. And
Mhm.
that's what you did. And so is this what you talk about mostly on your podcast, on how to utilize your energy as women to formulate not just relationships, but be able to take that and make a stronghold in business decisions, whether you work for a large corporation or a small corporation, or you have your own business. I think wherever God has led you and you feel good about where you are and you're passionate about it, that's where you need to be. And we're all created differently. I've met people that say, I don't know how you do a podcast. I just couldn't get on there and have anything to say. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have something to say 24 hours a day. And I love the fact that I have guests that come on. I am so much more educated in the last 2 years and having real girl talk than I ever was through college and nursing school and all of the corporate opportunities that I've had in life. I have more education from all of these women in 2 years than that combined. Not even kidding you. So tell us a little bit about that, the feminine energy and how we use that to cultivate relationships and be able to do business structure.
Yeah, it's a really important question, and most of us are disconnected from our feminine energy, and it can be kind of confusing with the terminology. So feminine energy and then masculine energy, we all, whether you're a male or a female, have both types of energy. So the way that I describe them is masculine energy is the go mode. It's structure, it's doing, it's vision, it's direction. Whereas feminine energy is more flow, intuition, creativity, nurturing. And we all have these. However, we've been very much operating as a culture, as a society, in the doing mode, in the go, go, go mode, trying to prove ourselves, working really hard. And we don't really have access to our intuition and creativity and slowing down and being. So part of the work that I do is reconnecting women to, and I work with women, but this work can be done with men as well, reconnecting women to who they really are, what their truth is, what feels good for them, and creating more, I don't love the word balance, but creating more balance between these two so that they don't feel burnt out all the time and disconnected from themselves. And through that, what's amazing is the more connected we are to ourselves, the more we start to attract people that are like-minded, that are on a similar frequency, that are, here uplifting us, celebrating us, and really connecting with the right people. When we are in alignment with ourselves, with God, with the universe, when we're in that alignment, and we create space for that, we start to magnetize and attract really amazing opportunities, people, experiences into our life. And that is true for business. It's true for relationships. Like, I never used to have the level of which my connection with women, both in my communities, in my friendships, on my podcast, similar to you. I think we all have so much to learn from each other. That wasn't happening for me when I felt so disconnected from myself, or when I was always being hard on myself or didn't love myself. Like, we get to create space for the inner work, and then the outer world starts to change and adapt and like respond to that in a really beautiful way. So
Right.
I know there's a lot in there and there's a lot of different pieces, but that's really the foundation of the work that I do is creating space for more of that feminine, of connecting with yourself so that you can create these new results in your life, and show up as your authentic self, which is the most freeing thing that we can do, is just to be ourselves and not try to modify that.
Yeah. And I learned a long time ago that as long as you really feel secure within yourself, and I'm not talking about, oh, you have to be in the best shape. And look, weight's always been a struggle with me. I mean, Amy will have to talk about nutrition, because I totally get what you're saying about it does change you emotionally as well as physically, right? In the foods that you eat. But one thing that I have learned is, as long as you feel good about you and you feel like you're on the right path of what you're supposed to do, what your God-given purpose, I think we all are gifted with talents. We either use them or lose them. And I believe that when you feel really good within, then the circumstances around you don't affect you as much, because you are secure within. So everything on the outside stays outside. It's those that don't have security, lack confidence, don't follow that soft voice and that intuition and those instincts that we have. When you don't do those things, then the circumstances around you, especially if they're negative, affect you on the inside. And so I really appreciate you saying that and thinking about confidence too. You have a way of building or helping women in confidence. You call them the three pillars, right? So the three pillars in confidence. Share those with us, because I think confidence goes hand in hand with what you just said about knowing who you are. Because if you don't have the confidence to actually be vulnerable and you don't have the confidence to be your true self, you're not going to be. I think it starts with confidence and listening to that intuition. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the journey that I see is really learning how to listen to your intuition and then taking action on it, which in
Mhm,
order to take action on any of that, we need to have that confidence.
mhm,
And I think everyone can really relate to this experience, when a woman walks in the room and she feels confident, it doesn't actually matter what she looks like, but
mm,
it's this energetic glow. It's this way she carries herself. It's the way she talks. It's the way she moves throughout the world. It's who she is. And that's an inner state. That has nothing to do with, what her body or what she looks like. And confidence is really about what is your relationship with yourself? How do you view your own self? And so the three pillars that I teach for confidence, because confidence feels like a really big word. And it's like, well, how do I get more confidence, right? Some people might say, oh, just say affirmations or, practice self love. But there are these deeper foundations that I have found in the work that I do that when we focus on strengthening these three areas that I'm going to share, your confidence naturally evolves and you start believing in yourself in a new way and you start thinking in a
mhm,
new way. So the three pillars that I work with are self-trust, which is that intuition piece of really learning how to listen to your inner voice and how to trust yourself, how to show up with integrity with yourself, how to listen to what is your soul trying to tell you instead of your
mhm,
fear. You mentioned earlier it's either fear or your soul, right? It's either you that whisper or your fear. So
right.
really learning how to build trust. And a lot of women don't trust themselves. They rely on everyone else to make decisions or to tell them what to do and
Mhm,
not really like trusting what they're going to say or what their choices are. So that's a really important pillar is learning that self-trust and learning how to trust that inner voice.
mhm,
The second pillar is worthiness. And I think that, especially in the world that we live in, there's this contagious belief of not enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, just not enough. And we live in a world where there's a lot of comparison and competition, and someone always has to win, and there's always
mhm,
someone better, and not really focusing on what are we good at and celebrating ourselves. Like the antithesis to not feeling enough is to celebrate the things that you are good at and to celebrate what you're proud of yourself for. And we don't take time to slow down and be like, wow, I'm really proud of myself for that, or acknowledging
right.
ourselves for the gifts we do have. We often focus on what we don't have. So, worthiness, when we really understand our worth, which is really the value that we perceive that we give to the world, we're going to show up differently and in relationships. We're not going to settle for poor quality relationships. We're going to set
Mhm,
healthier boundaries. We're going to honor our time. We're going to be able to attract and make more money because we believe in ourselves. We believe that we have value to offer. And then the third piece is self love. And a lot of people see self love, it's kind of like a catchy term. And
mhm,
we can start with the idea of self care, which is, getting a manicure, pedicure, taking a bath, etc. That's a part of self love. But for me, self love is the conversation that we have with ourselves is how do you speak to yourself?
mm,
Not just in the moments where you're doing things well, but maybe where like you mess up on something or things don't go exactly how you think they should. And in those moments, can you be loving to yourself and compassionate with yourself? And when we start to be gentle and kind with ourselves, it actually inspires us to show up and be more loving with other people. And it changes that narrative in our mind. So all three of these pillars are really the inner work that we don't really get
Mhm.
taught in school. We don't really talk about, but they're really powerful, and they really shift the way that we perceive ourselves.
Look, when you said speak to yourself, I wrote down, how do you allow others to speak to you? Because
Hmm.
I think it's super important. You can tell yourself all day long, I am a conqueror. I am worthy. I am smart. I am beautiful on the inside and out. And you can tell yourself all these things, but if you're allowing people around you, again, those circumstances around you, and you're just saying those affirmations, but you don't truly believe them, right? So we're not set with the inside. We're just saying those affirmations, but we don't truly believe those things. We're just saying them. And then the people around us are giving us all of this negative feedback, and they're telling us who we are. You're never going to change. The action can't happen because you don't have it on the inside, and you're also allowing it on the outside to come in. I think we have to block that negativity, and that starts with paying attention to who you surround yourself with. I'm a true
Hmm.
believer in that you are the sum of the people that you keep closest to you. I'm not saying that, you have to just start over with a new group of friends. I'm saying that there are some that you have to love from a distance. There are
Hmm.
some that go through seasons with you that they're supposed to be in that time with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking them into the spring and the summer and the fall of the next year, right? We just, sometimes they're with us for 3 and 4 years, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes we have lifelong friends. I have a very dear friend that lives close to me. We've been friends since we were 14 years old. We went to
Mm.
college together. I love her children like they're mine, and vice versa. And when my son passed away, she was right there, front and center, didn't know what to do. So she's taking notes and trying to give me sandwiches. It's just that person, that and she's always been that person for me. I have a lot of amazing friends, but not all of them do I keep close because I
Mhm.
help them as much as I can. But I also sometimes have to love some of them from a distance to protect my own energy. Is that sometimes that kind of sounds selfish, but I know you probably don't think that that's selfish to protect your
Not at
energy.
all.
Yeah.
I think that in order for us to serve in the capacity that we're meant to serve, we have to protect our energy. If we're constantly letting our energy leak out to social media, to
Mm,
toxic relationships, to people who don't really, get us, or maybe are constantly complaining all the time, constantly asking for advice all the time, we have no energy left to give, to
right.
to really give to the world in the way that we can. And that's actually a practice that I 100% believe in, is loving people from afar. And I believe that it's okay for us to not live our lives as people pleasers, just doing things because we think we need to be nice. Is that
Mhm.
really nice, to have someone in your space where you don't genuinely, authentically feel like you can, connect and love them in the way that you want to?
Right.
And you're like, people come in and out of our lives for a reason. I see a lot of people trying to hold on because they feel bad. Like, that's not love.
Right.
That, to me, that's not love. So I
Right.
definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, sometimes we have to be really careful, and I think we need to really hone in on that intuition when it comes to surrounding ourselves with people that just want to be in misery. I believe that misery loves company, and
Mhm.
people that are miserable tend to navigate towards those that are already miserable. So maybe you're just having a down day. Maybe you're going through a situation in your life. Something about those people that like to live in misery have those misery radar detectors, and they can hone in on you. And even though that might be just a situation that you're in and you're going to come out of it, if you start surrounding yourself with those of misery, you will find that it takes longer to move past situations because you keep them closer. And I am just going to have to use politics as a I'm not going to talk politics, but I am going to say this. I found this a lot during the election because you have those that complain about Trump and then those that talk about everything that Trump did, but yes, you don't like his personality, so you voted for Biden. And those same people are complaining because their uncle just lost their job because he stopped the Keystone pipeline. It's like, yeah, but you didn't want Trump and you voted for Biden, so now you're complaining for Biden. It's like, you just want to complain. There is no resolution. I don't believe you're looking for happiness. I don't believe you're looking for anything to satisfy you. You're just wanting to complain. And these same people complain about work. They complain about their spouse. They complain, and it's constant. There's one thing to go
It's
through.
exhausting.
It's exhausting. But you think about it, in a divorce, yeah, you're probably talking a lot about your divorce. You might be complaining quite a bit about what you're going through. Listen, nurture those people. We're there to help those people, especially if you're one that's been through it. I went through divorce. I'm in my second marriage of 22 years. And if you're going through a divorce and you need some advice, reach out to me, girlfriend. I'll help you. But if you're not wanting advice and a resolution, you're not ready to take my coaching and my mentorship, you're just looking for someone to complain to, I am not the right person. I'm sure there's someone out there that's great for you, but I'm about helping you through that situation and helping you find a resolution so you can move on and go back to finding all that inner happiness. Anyway, that's my 2 cents and all of that. But I love that self-trust, worthiness, and self-love are your 3 pillars for building confidence, and your intuition. And then as well as you have to have that confidence to take that action when you know you have. I love that, Amy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you because I've got notes. Whenever I'm taking notes with my guests, that's a good sign because I'm absorbing in my brain because I love this. So I want you to talk to us really quickly about where we can find you, what your podcast is about, and any projects that you have going on, because I'm going to be following you and listening because I've already learned some things from you. Where can everybody find you? And my listeners love podcast, obviously. So where's your podcast?
So the podcast is called the Feminine Frequency Podcast. We talk about all things intuition, manifesting, money mindset, relationships, mindset, empowerment, anything that has to do with the realm of connecting to yourself and creating a life that you love. So we do talk about business as well, sisterhood. Really, a lot of what I've been talking about today is infused into the podcast.
Nice.
So that's been an incredible platform that I absolutely love to share free value, lots of amazing guests, lots of my own wisdom. And then outside of the podcast, I have a group coaching program that is starting on February 16th. I'm not sure when this episode is going to go out, but this is called the Soul Calling Accelerator for women who want to connect with their purpose and have the confidence to get out there in the world and follow their soul calling. So that's one of the processes that I have. And I also have a mastermind coming up in March, which is for women who have already started their businesses, really more of the mindset, the alignment, the energetic, the inner world of being an entrepreneur. That's really what that's focused on. So There's always lots of exciting things coming up. So wherever this comes out, you can find me on Instagram and you'll find whatever's coming next on there. You can find me, my Instagram handle is at Amy Natalie Co at the end. I would love to hear from you too. So please send me a personal message on Instagram. Let me know what resonated for you here. I love to connect with my listeners and to connect with people. That's why I'm doing this. So I'd love to hear from you.
Now, you said the mastermind starts in March. Do you have a date yet for that mastermind?
It'll be middle of March.
Okay, so mid-March, you're starting a mastermind. And the best way for people to connect for the mastermind would be through an email?
Yeah, they can either come to me on Instagram or you can email me. It's Amy at amynatalieco.com. Pretty simple.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love this conversation, and I hope that your listeners find so much value.
Thank you for tuning in all the way through Real Girl Talk. Make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you happen to have iTunes, would you do me a huge favor and leave us a rating and review of the show? That's the way that we get this message out to more and more people around the world. And giving us a review and rating, something good is going to come back your way. Plus, I know you're the type of person that wants others to live their best lives. So can you copy this link, share it to your friends, share it on social media? Remember, people need to be inspired. They need to have tips. They need to have business ideas more than ever right now. And I know that you can help me on this mission. Thank you again so much. If you want to be a supporter of the show, go back to realgirltalkpodcast.com, click Be a Supporter. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being a part of Real Girl Talk Podcast. And until next week, keep your encouragement tank full, your faith in God, and create your beautiful life.